Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome. It's been a hot minute. It's been like 3 days, which is a long time when you've just witnessed such an exciting moment in the story. Hang on, Great song, but let me just... Banger, by the way. Joined by Calman.
Back again.
This shit's getting exciting, isn't it, Calm?
Oh yeah, that's a significant number of fatalities last stream.
Just insanity, guys. Fucking Rudolph, dead. Kyrie, dead. Fucking Rosa, dead. Goda-san, the cook. Not that you all cared about the cook. Bloody Shannon.
And Kraus, don't forget Kraus.
And Kraus. George in fucking shambles. Battler in shambles. Maria.
Jessica seemed to take it the hardest, to be honest.
Yeah, Jessica's fucking losing her mind. We haven't even heard Maria's reaction yet. Callum, you're going to be in for it this episode, mate.
Yeah, I know what to expect. It starts with ooh and ends in ooh.
Get your oohs ready, dude. Here we go. Okay. All that could be heard was the sound of the rain, the voices from the kids' TV program Maria was watching, and the engrossed Maria's cackling voice. In other words, what greeted them as they returned dumbfounded from that horrible, bizarre scene was the voice of Maria as she rolled around laughing at the TV. Oh, God. Those who returned to the room didn't know how to explain to Maria that her mother was dead, and were trapped by a suffocating silence. At first, Maria returned their stares with a dubious look, but when she realized they weren't trying to blame her for anything, she ignored them and again immersed herself in the TV program. The children wordlessly sat down heavily on the sofa. Their minds were probably blank from their state of shock. Everyone had already cried and mourned so much. Now they just vaguely sat there, their faces seeming to have lost all emotion. Only Kanon had returned to his usual calm expression. However, that probably didn't mean he'd been able to wipe out the shock. You know, maybe it was Kanon, dude, because he had the key. And it would make sense that Kanon brought it back to the office. And now he's calm.
What would be the benefit of bringing it back to the office, though?
Well, if it was brought back to the office, then it wouldn't raise any suspicions that it had been stolen.
But, like, logically, the key had to be used, right? So that was what, I think Battler... Was it Battler who was saying? Or someone was saying that, like, why would you return the key and make it easier to find the bodies?
Yeah, true. Nothing was reflected in his eyes as he stared into empty space. Hideyoshi kept on fidgeting, and every time he remembered that horrible scene, he started muttering about how he couldn't believe it. How it couldn't have been something from this world. How it must have been the work of demons. Every now and then his mutterings produced a question directed at Nanjo. The latter kept repeating in a calm, doctor-like manner that nothing could be understood by only glancing at the scene, and that until the police arrived, they wouldn't learn anything. However, Nanjo only appeared calm next to Hideyoshi, who simply couldn't suppress his agitation and fear. In fact, Nanjo had also received a huge shock, and his face was a deathly pale. Maybe that atmosphere was why she tried to rise to the challenge and take charge. Natsuhi appeared to be unchanged from her normal attitude, and she briskly gave directions. I will go see father. Genji, quickly contact the police. Oh, did you catch that line, Callum?
Yeah.
Oh.
I guess the microphone didn't pick it up as certainly.
Sorry, I made you repeat yourself, mate.
I wonder if you would allow me to tag along, Natsui-ne-san.
Fuck off, Eva. Give it a rest.
Since Kraus-ni-san is now gone, the task of aiding father has been left to me.
Fuck, she's a bitch.
It would be improper of me to relax here while relying entirely on you.
Natsui was struck speechless by Ava's aggressive move in a situation like this. She seemed to be claiming that, with Kraus dead, the one to take responsibility shouldn't be his wife, but herself, the next highly ranked in the family. Or maybe she hadn't been at all happy when Natsuhi took command without reference to her in such an extreme situation. However, even Ava's mind had been blank from shock until a moment ago. She only came to her senses after Natsuhi started giving orders. Just do as you like. Natsuhi started walking without saying a word more. Ava followed behind her. Oh, Kumasawa's back. It's been a while. What's she been up to, mate?
What can I guess?
Yeah, likely story. As they did, Kumasawa ran into the parlor. She usually wasn't the kind of person to run around, so under normal conditions, most people would have taken her entrance as a sign that something was the matter. But because everyone was still stricken with shock, they hardly even noticed her.
Madam. Madam. If you're looking for Natsui-ne-san, she went to see father. She'll probably be back soon. What happened, Kumasawa-san?
What happened? What do you mean, mate?
You see, in the dining hall, there was blood. Blood!
Oh, fuck.
Not more blood.
The ears of everyone in the parlor twitched. Everyone thought the same thing. I hope I misheard that. Any container can only hold so much, and no one here would be capable of handling yet another tragedy. So they all thought it. I hope I misheard that.
What happened? In the dining hall?
Oh, hey, Salmon. What's up, brother? Alright, you want the face cam? Okay. Sure. Got it right here for you.
Right, Jimmy.
I've caved. I'm a slut to Salmon. Alright, I'll just have to put on the better mood lighting. Is it Thanksgiving, really? I don't know when Thanksgiving is.
It's on Sunday, right? But like this is the Thanksgiving period, I guess.
Oh, Salmon, mate. It's I see you haven't fixed your sleep schedule if you're still up, mate. You tried
I'm so sorry to hear
Vegemite.
that. I hate Vegemite.
I don't mind it. I think it's alright. How did you have it, salmon? With toast and like butter or something? Or just on its own? Americans always try it on its own and they're like, ew.
It wouldn't be any better in toast.
It tasted like someone dropped my buttered toast on a plate of salt, then in a muddy puddle.
Yeah, checks out.
Ah. Sourdough with butter, bro, that would have been so good. I actually want some right now. Should buy some Vegemite.
Not in this household, mate.
Would that offend you, Callum?
Yeah, I'd be like, oh, not Vegemite.
Look, it's a pretty acquired taste, to be fair. You could try Marmite. Marmite's slightly different. Marmite's the British version.
I used to have Promite when I was very young, which is...
Yeah, I
I
had
think
Promite
another
too.
Australian.
My mum and dad always bought Promite. Is it a food
That
that's
is like
so
just
intense you
salt.
crave it? Yeah, I think it is. Because it's probably got some MSG and shit in there to make you crave that.
I don't think it's as addictive as meth, but...
Yeah, you think? Yeah, well, good on you for trying it, Salmon. Right, let's continue with the dialogue. So, Salmon, I don't think you saw the last episode, man, but 6 people were found dead in the garden shed. So, we're just dealing with the aftermath of that.
You should watch the VOD, it's pretty intense.
Watch the VOD, it was fucking awesome. Hosting a Friendsgiving, but instead of food, everyone brings their favorite recreational drug. Oh, nice. Put it in a bowl. Oh, Jesus.
Is that like King's Cup, but like...
With
worse?
drugs.
King's Bowl. Where the person who loses just ODs and dies.
Yeah, Salmon, be careful, mate. Don't mix too many, mate. Just have a couple. Okay, so Hideyoshi's like, what's happened? He thinks there's been another murder. At this point, I don't know if Kumasawa knows about the murders, but I guess we'll find out.
When I went to the dining hall to set up for breakfast... Oh, oh dear.
The first one to start running was George. His harsh footsteps jogged Hideyoshi and Nanjo to their senses, and they chased after him. Battler and the others followed. They flew into the dining hall, one after another, but they didn't find any change that might have caused Kumasawa to go pale. To those who had viewed that gruesome scene in the storehouse, it was a bit of an anticlimax. However, Kumasawa, who had followed them, pointed it out. There really was some traces of blood remaining on the floor. Compared to that terrible scene, it wasn't very impressive. However, if you calmly thought about it, this definitely indicated the loss of a lot of blood. There's another puddle of blood over here. What in the world? It appears that a great deal of time has passed. It's probably safe to say that they were killed here last night.
Definitely looks that way. We were talking together in the dining hall until late into the night. After that, someone must have forced their way in.
Dad, when did you and Mum slip out of the meeting and go to sleep?
It was a little past midnight. So we should probably assume it happened after that.
We should probably assume, unless it was Hideyoshi or Ava.
Yeah, convenient that Ava and Hideyoshi were just not there at the time.
Very convenient.
Are you kidding me? Give me a break.
Milady, please stay strong. After seeing that hell on earth in the storehouse, this is nothing.
Really? Good for you. I feel like my head's gonna explode. This is the dining hall, right? Every day, this is where I'd eat, complain about school, complain about homework, talk to my dad about my grades. That's what this place is to me.
Milady, it wouldn't be good to remain here any longer. Let's return to the parlor. I agree. Uncle Hideyoshi, I think this room will be really important to the police. Don't you think it'd be bad if we trampled all over it? Battler proposed this in a slightly firm voice as, along with Kanon, he grabbed the pale and shaking Jessica's shoulders. Everything is just as Battler-san has said. There is nothing more to be gained from remaining in this room. Nanjo spoke while looking at everyone's pale faces. Even though that horrible scene in the storehouse felt like something not of this world, at least then we'd be able to leave, to cut ourselves off from that place and run away. Everyone had shared in that feeling. However, this dining hall was different. It was in the mansion, the main building on this estate, and as Jessica had said, it should have been one of the most calming places, even inside the mansion. It was where all the relatives had eaten lunch and dinner yesterday. The shock of seeing this place smeared with blood reminded us of that horrible spectacle in the storehouse, and forced us to accept that we hadn't really been able to run away from the scene of that tragedy.
I agree too. The culprit might have left traces in this room. Amateurs like us shouldn't stir up the place. Let's leave quickly.
Oh man, Hideyoshi's giving me a slight dodgy vibe. And until now, I haven't noticed it. But just the way he's talking, looks like he's trying too hard to,
usher people away.
Yeah, and to kind of get people off the scent. And so maybe Ava has just been, like, influencing Hideyoshi behind the scenes. Is that like a... What's that emote from, Salmon? Is that...
It's from Family Guy. It's
Family
like
Guy.
The pedophile.
Oh,
yeah. Quickly.
Hideyoshi also understood the meaning of what Battler had said, and pushed everyone to hurry out of the dining hall. The way we were then, looking at that blood any longer would have been too harsh. Nobody went against his words. Everyone raced each other out of the dining hall. It was almost as though the last person in the room would be trapped in there, all alone. No one's told Maria yet. Gotta rip off that
Can you
band-aid.
tell Maria, though?
Once in the hallway, we lent a hand to Kumasawa, who was still trembling and leaning against the wall, and we all headed back to the parlor together. And does Kumasawa know about it?
I'm not sure.
Then Genji returned. Oh, Genji-san. Were you able to contact the police?
As to that, I'm afraid I must apologize.
What do you mean, Mark? What's going on?
I didn't know if it was a failure of the radio or something else that caused it, but... What? So you couldn't contact the police?
Oh, fuck!
Both the phone and the radio failed? Yeah, it doesn't seem like a coincidence at this point. My apologies. A boat will be arriving on Monday morning, and I believe we will be able to borrow their communications equipment.
Jesus, they're getting stranded, isolated, and there's a fucking murder on the loose.
Isn't there a boat on this island? Can't we just take a little trip out to the Nijima Police Department?
Hideyoshi-san, that would be impossible with this weather. At the very least, we can't do anything until the typhoon passes us by.
Kraus-sama's boat is being repaired and is not on the island. Therefore, we must wait for the boat coming on Monday. Could this happen? 6 people are dead. The phones and radio aren't working, and there's no boat. So, until the typhoon passes and the boat comes, in other words, until tomorrow morning, we're going to be stuck here on the island, unable to contact the police, aren't we?
Which means that not just us, but the criminal who killed everyone is also confined to this island. That certainly follows. The culprit who killed everyone is still here on the island.
So the bastard who killed Dad and the others must still be hiding somewhere, unable to escape. Damn it! Damn it, damn it, damn it! I'll catch that bastard. Now I'll hand him over to the police. I'll slice him to bits myself.
Oh no! Maria had finally realized that something odd was happening in the parlor. Rather than noticing something odd, it was probably better to say she felt unhappy and neglected, since everyone was getting so excited about something only she didn't know about.
Jessica One-chan, did someone die?
That's a strange question. What the fuck? Why is she smiling about it? Wait, Maria's giving me the creeps.
It's a reasonable question. I mean, the answer's yes.
I know the answer's yes, but she's immediately jumped to did someone die, not like did something happen. Maybe Maria knows more than she's letting on, guys. Or maybe she's about to let on all she knows. Oh dear, this is confirming my suspicions. The way she spoke was completely calm. Oh, Christ. Just as though she was talking about someone who had appeared on a television drama. As though it was someone else's problem. Jessica probably didn't like that. As though trying to say, can't you tell just by looking at me, overwhelmed with grief? She flared up at Maria.
All right, everyone.
Oh my god.
My dad and Battler's parents. Goda-san and Shannon. And even your mother too.
Stop it, Jessica-chan. You aren't the only one who's sad. Maria-san. I know this will come as a shock, but please listen. Your mother has died.
Mama died? Oh.
Yeah. Someone killed her. I know it's sad, but stay strong.
How many people died?
God, Maria's not taking this how I thought she would.
You expected full-on tantrum. But 6 people. 6 people. Damn it, damn it, damn it. How could anyone do something that cruel? There's a limit to how cruel you can be if you're human. I don't know who it is, but the culprit isn't human.
Maybe it's a witch moth.
There's no way their blood is red.
Why is Maria not even phased?
The culprit isn't human. It's just the
Can't.
something chosen by the something.
Oh gosh. Is Maria still like controlled by Beatrice, maybe? Like possessed? She's acting possessed. Huh? Hey, Maria. Did you say something just now? Maria had just said something, but since the words were so remotely separated from the flow and context of the conversation, I couldn't understand them for a second. When I tried to ask her to repeat it again, I was shocked by the sudden sound of Aunt Natsui's loud voice coming from the entrance to the parlor. It looked like Aunt Natsui and Aunt Ava had returned from their trip to see grandfather. You can't contact them, even with the radio? If we can't use it at a time like this, why do we even have an emergency radio?
My apologies. It was supposed to have a maintenance inspection every year. Wait, can you have one of those boat signaling devices that makes a flashing light? Couldn't you use that to contact the next island? We do not have such equipment. My sincere apologies.
Just then, Kumasawa arrived, pushing a serving cart loaded with breakfast. Not now, Kumasawa. It's not the time for
Give it a rest, Kumasawa.
Since there's no way we'd be able to eat in the dining hall, Hideyoshi had ordered her to take it to the parlor. Why are we eating breakfast here?
Natsui-san. I'll tell you later. More importantly, Ava, how was father?
I still don't know if the grandma has been filled in on what's happened. Maybe I missed that.
I don't think she has, like, at least explicitly. But surely she has. Or is about it.
Judging by the fact that he's not with you, it seems he will not leave his room. Not even for a situation like this.
He wasn't there. The room was empty.
Oh. Oh shit.
What the?
こんな時にどこ行ったんや。
Where could he have gone at a time like this?
親方様が書斎を
Do
出ら
you
れた
mean
と
to
いう
say
の
the
ですか？
master has left his study?
そうです。
That is
私
correct.
も驚いています。
I was surprised
い
myself.
つの間に部屋を出
I
たの
wonder when he left his room.
あなたたちに
Do you
心当
have
たり
any
はないので
idea?
すか？
Natsui looked at Genji and Kanon as she said this. Maybe she was trying to ask whether the servants who served directly under the one-winged eagle knew of a place he might go. However, it was probably the other way around. Their faces made it clear that those who knew Kinzo best realized even more than the rest how impossible it was for him to leave his room.
僕たちにも見当がつきません。
Even we have no idea.
ご存知の通り
As you all know, within that study, the master had everything from a place to sleep to a bathroom.
親方様があの部屋をお出になること
I couldn't imagine him leaving that room except for a significant
考えられ
reason.
ません。となると、なん
In
や
that case, what?
そのよっぽどのことがあった
Isn't
と
it
考える
natural
の
to
が
assume that one of those
自然だとすること
significant
になるん
reasons
か。
came up?
まだそうと決まったわけではありません。
We still cannot be certain that's the case.
とにかく気まぐれな
Anyway,
方ですから。
He's a fickle person, so it's possible he went for a walk by himself, unaware of the current situation.
仮にそうだとしたら、
If that is the case, then we must act in all haste
ご指示を
to
仰
tell
が
him
ねば
what
な
has
りません。
happened and ask for instructions.
そうね。
That's
考
right.
えたくはないけど。
Although I don't want to think
お
about it,
父様の
it's
身に
possible
何
something
かあ
has
ったのか
happened
も
to
しれ
him,
ないし
isn't it?
ね。そのような不吉なことは
I'd rather
考
not
え
even
たくもありません。
consider such a sinister possibility. No one had seen Kinzo since the discovery of those 6 terrible corpses. On top of that, the phones were broken, the radio wouldn't reach anyone, and there was no way to contact the police. Apparently the typhoon would leave tomorrow and a boat would come, but until then, no one could rely on anyone outside the island, nor could they escape the island. The tragedy had hit everyone so abruptly that they'd lost all their composure. Everyone felt a heavy silence. Everyone was impatient. Even though they needed to do something, they couldn't think of anything. So some of them held their heads in their arms, while others got irritated. Right now, no one could explain what was occurring on this island, Rakenjima. After that, we ate the breakfast Kumasawa-san had made, which felt dry and tasteless. Of course, this was right after something like that had happened. No one felt particularly hungry. However, we understood logically that not eating would weaken our bodies. It would also be rude to Kumasawa-san, who had made the breakfast. Kumasawa-san had taken some unusual Western vegetables, ones that Goda-san had probably ordered for his ultra-elaborate meals, and cooked them in a Japanese style, which made them turn an unpleasant color. As to what Goda-san had been planning to cook with those ingredients, right then I couldn't even imagine it. If I did think about it, I'd be reminded of the way Goda-san died, and a sour taste would fill the inside of my mouth. Everyone pretended to eat for the time being, but of course no one made much progress. Then we began pooling our knowledge of our current situation. First off, 6 people, which included Uncle Kraus, my dad. Oh, this is from Jessica's perspective? Oh, no, sorry.
No.
Uncle Kraus
From Dad.
and my dad Rudolph, right. Kyrie-san, Aunt Rosa, Goda-san, and Shannon-chan had been found in the Rose Garden storehouse as brutally mutilated corpses. And yet, we still couldn't contact the police, since both the phones and the radio were unusable. So until the typhoon passed, there was nothing we could do. Furthermore, Grandfather, who we might have hoped would be able to show a little leadership in this kind of situation, had disappeared. some time ago. Goda-san hadn't made breakfast, so grandmother's stomach must have been empty. Sorry, grandfather's stomach. And if he had just been taking a casual walk, we should have been able to hear him whining about how hungry he was by now. And despite that, he hadn't appeared. There was more than a small chance that he'd gotten caught up in this crime. According to my aunts, on their way back from Kinzo's study, they'd searched for him, calling out on every floor, but were unable to find him. Considering the timing of it all, it's only reasonable to assume that this disappearance had something to do with the crime. We figured Dad and the rest were probably killed in the dining hall, and then painstakingly moved to the storehouse. So maybe Grandfather has already been killed, and dragged to some strange place which we simply haven't discovered yet. No one actually said it out loud, but this theory seemed extremely convincing.
私たちはお屋敷の戸締まりを確認してきます。
We will go check that all of the windows and doors are locked.
お父様も
We
念入
must
りに
also
探さなければ
conduct
な
a
りません。
thorough search for father.
子供たちはこの
The
部屋を出
children
ない
must
ように。
remain in this room.
エヴァさんと秀吉さんは
Eva-san and
申し訳ありませんが
Hideyoshi-san,
ここで
I'm
子供た
sorry,
ちと一緒にいてください。
but please stay here with the
南
children.
條先生もお願い
I'd
い
like
たし
to
ます。
ask you the same, Dr. Nanjo.
わかりました。
I understand.
ここで
I will
お
wait
待ちして
here.
います。
Aunt Natsuhi followed the servants, Genji-san, Kumasawa-san, and Kanon-kun out of the parlor. All that was left was Aunt Eva, Uncle Hideyoshi, Dr. Nanjo, and the four of us children. A total of 7 people.
みんなで仲良くテレビでも見て
Let's
ま
all
すよ
stick
な。
together and maybe watch some television while we wait. Shut up, idiot.
Why is he so happy all of a sudden?
He's trying to lighten the
日
mood.
曜日の午前中
Oh, I
は
doubt
ど
we'll
んな
find
番
anything
組やっとらへんな。
good in the middle of the day on a Sunday.
Uncle Hideyoshi started acting cheerfully, trying to brighten up this gloomy atmosphere.
Ooh, good show. Watch it, watch it. Ooh.
お、そうか。
Oh,
マリアちゃんは
really?
テレビ見るか。
You want to watch TV, Maria-chan?
じゃあ、おじさんと一緒に
Then
見よう
come and
か。
watch it with your uncle.
Maria was the only one who joined in. Even though Maria had been told of her mother's death, she didn't show the slightest flicker in her emotions. Now that's weird. That's the elephant in the room at this point. Maria, I mean, you know, maybe you could argue that she's she's suppressing it to like a crazy degree to where she's just being emotionless about it. But based on how, you know, scared she gets on the slightest things, there's definitely something going on with Maria.
They didn't really get to ask her what was going on either, because Natsui came back and cut her off.
Yeah, and like now they've just forgotten about the whole question. Was it really normal for a 9-year-old girl like Maria to act so much like a very young child? Everyone else's mood failed to improve, and they each sank absent-mindedly into their sofas.
兄貴
Anarchy,
聞いていいか
can I ask you something?
なんだい
What is it?
さっき倉庫で
Just now, in the
兄
storehouse.
貴は
You said something about Shannon-chan and a ring.
あれ
Did you give
送っ
that
た
to
の
her?
は兄貴か
George Anarchy didn't answer, but he hung his head and closed both of his eyes. There could be no clearer response.
よせよバトラ
Witted battler.
少しは察しろよ
Figure it out yourself.
You're right.
悪いことを聞いたぜ
I shouldn't have asked.
そうさ
That's right.
僕だよ
It was me.
彼女に
Last
ゆ
night,
うべ求婚したんだ
I proposed to her.
その時
That was when I gave her the ring.
明日になったら
I told her that
それを
tomorrow
好きな指にはめて
she should put it on whatever finger she wanted
返事としてくれ
as
る
her
って
answer.
気ざったらしいことを
Guess it was a pretty pretentious thing to say. And that ring had been on the ring finger of Shannon-chan's left hand.
私さ
Well,
数年前から
several years ago,
相談を受けて
Shannon came to me asking for advice
ジョージ兄さんのことでさ
about you, George Nisa.
なんて言ってたのかな
I wonder what she could have said.
シャノンは嘘をつくのが下手だ
Shannon was always really bad at lying.
ジョージ兄さんのことを言ってるのは
It was
すぐに
obvious
バレバ
pretty
レでさ
quickly that you were the only one she was talking about.
自分は
Shannon was always. Oh. Bleh. She asked whether it would be okay for her to get close to someone,
使用人の身分だけど
even though she was only a servant.
男の人の好きそうなもの
She
は
asked
何
about
だ
what
とか
kinds of things boys
どういう
is
服を着
like,
たら喜ぶか
what
とか
kind of clothes she should wear to make them
そ
happy.
んなことをいろいろとさ
Lots of stuff like that.
なんつ
Well, I guess you could say I felt envious hearing her say that.
まあ焼けたぜ
それが婚約指
So
輪を
then
渡されて
she was given an engagement ring, and
おしまいかよ
it all ended right there.
価値観は人それぞれだけどよ
Different people value things differently,
男から求婚されるってのは
but being proposed to by a man,
人生の到達点なんだと思うんだよ
it can be the high point of your life.
だからきっと
So I'm sure
昨夜のシャノンは
last night, I'm sure Shannon was happy
そこから
from the bottom of her heart.
いや
Happier than she's ever been since the day of her birth.
一番幸せだったと思うぜ
George Anarchy sighed deeply without raising his head. Or maybe tears had risen to his eyes.
シャノンは夕べゲストハウスの当番だったら
It
しい
seems Shannon was on duty in the guest house last night,
でも
but
シャノン
because she
は
was
僕
too
と一緒に
embarrassed to go back to the guest
ゲ
house
ス
with
トハウス
me,
にお屋敷に行ってしまった
she went over to the mansion.
シャノンの気持ちを察しろよ
Think about how Shannon must have felt.
婚約指輪をもらえば
When you receive an engagement ring,
だって
then no matter how much warning you've been given beforehand,
頭は真っ白になっ
it's
ちゃうし
perfectly normal to get so excited that your mind goes blank.
気恥ずかしくて仕方なかった
She
んだ
must have
ろう
been incredibly embarrassed. Damn, Jessica, what the fuck are you talking about? You're making George feel bad.
And then
当番
Shannon
でないはずのお屋敷へ
went to the mansion, even though she hadn't been assigned there,
そこでゴーダさんの仕
helped
事を
Goda
手
san
伝い
with his work,
事件に巻き込まれ
and
て
got
しまった
caught up in this crime.
僕が
If only I hadn't
あの日
given her that ring
あの場所で
on that day.
指輪なんか渡さなけ
In
れば
that place,
シャノンは
Shannon wouldn't have,
さよは
Sayo wouldn't have
事件に巻き込まれなかったんだ
been caught up in that crime. Ugh.
兄貴
Anarchy,
それだけは違うぜ
that's the one place where you're wrong.
断じて違う
It's definitely wrong.
だから
So don't cry anymore.
バトラー君
Battler kun. Let's leave him be.
After Aunt Ava said that, I stopped talking to him.
Look at her face.
God, that's a fake smile if I've ever seen one. Misplaced words of comfort might actually do more harm than good. Jessica sat down next to Anarchy and put an arm around him. Maybe only Jessica, who had known about Anarchy and Shannon's love since the beginning, and who had even discussed that relationship with Shannon, could comfort Anarchy now. I went over to Aunt Ava and sat down in the opposite sofa.
バトラ君は強いわね。
Battler-kun, you really are strong.
もうだいぶしっかりしているように見える
It
わよ。
looks like you've kept a good hold on yourself.
まあその
Well, look.
ほら愛
The
の
depth
深さ
of the
が
love
傷の
becomes
深
the
さじゃない
depth
です
of
か
the wound, right?
俺は別に
After all,
あんなクソ親父
it's
どう
not
しよ
like
うが知っ
that
たことじゃな
old
いし
bastard died. Not like how that old bastard died had anything to do with
キ
me.
リエさんは気の毒ですが
I feel bad about
本
Kirei-san,
当の親
but,
ってわけじゃないですしね
well, she wasn't actually my parent.
あら。という
My,
割には
my.
さっきすっ
If
ご
that's
く応援
so,
してたわよ
you。certainly were crying a lot back then.
まあ育ての親に対する恩
I
は
did think at least that much crying was due as gratitude to the parent who raised me.
そのあたりの切り替えの速さや
The
ドライ
speed of
ブだ
that
ったりは
changeover and that dry
本当に
turn must have
驚
come
か
from
れるね。
Rudolph.
あの子は昔から
That
激
kid
しく
would always
喜ん
get
だり楽
violently
しんだり
happy,
怒ったりした
sad
けれ
and
ど
angry.
すぐにケロリと平静を取り
But
戻
he'd
したわ。
always regained his cool immediately afterwards.
そんな
It's
ことない
nothing like that.
俺だって
I haven't really been able to get over the
子供
shock
の
yet.
ショックからただ俺がみんなと違うのは
I think the only difference between me and everyone else is the kinds of emotions it stirred in me.
どういうこと？
What do you mean?
I've been acting much calmer than George, Anarchy, and Jessica. That wasn't because my sadness was any less intense, or because I'd already recovered. My sadness was simply getting replaced gradually with a different
悲
emotion.
しいっていうよりは
Rather than sad,
腹立たしいって気持ちなんすよ
I'd say I'm more pissed off.
どこのドイツがこんなことをしやがったの
What bastard did this? And where?
ひよこっつらに一発お見舞い
It's
して
kind
や
of
ら
been
ないこと
eating at me that I didn't get a chance to smack him upside the face. That was what I really wanted to do. I couldn't forgive myself if I just sat there, overwhelmed with sadness and hugging my
親
knees.
父たちが殺されて以降
Since the time Dad and the
台
others were
風に包
killed,
まれたままです
this island has been covered by the typhoon, which means the bastard responsible for all this is still somewhere on this island.
まだこの
そういうことになるわね。
Yes, that would seem to be the case.
今も暗い森
I
の
wonder if
中
they're
に
hiding
身を
somewhere in
潜め
that
ている
dark
かしら。
forest even now.
I felt like I'd had a very similar conversation with Kyrie-san the night before. That's right. After the letter from the person claiming to be Beatrice appeared at the dinner table last night, we talked about whether or not a 19th person actually exists.
エヴァおばさん
Aunt Ava,
この殺人
do you think this
ゆうべ
murder
のベアトリーチェの手紙と
has anything to do with the letter from Beatrice last night?
ああ、例の
Ah, that one.
さあ、
Well, I wonder.
あの手紙は
All of the siblings agreed that the mysterious letter was sent to further complicate the problem of father's inheritance.
それと今朝の事件に関係
As to whether that and the case this morning are related, it's impossible to tell at this stage.
あの手紙
Was that letter really given to Maria by someone witch called Beatrice?
まさか
How could it be?
全部お父様の仕組んだ
Well,
茶
if it
番
was a farce devised by father, wasn't it?
シャノンちゃんあたりに肖像画のド
He
レスを
made
着せて
Shannon-chan or someone wear the dress from the portrait and trick Maria-chan, right?
お父様らしい
Isn't that just the kind of overly intricate prank father would pull? I think you're asking the wrong person, Eva.
キリエさんとベアトリーチェは実在するんだろうかって
Last
話を
night
した
I talked with Kyrie-san about whether Beatrice actually
キリエさんも
exists.
俺た
And
ち
Kyrie-san
18の中に
also said that Beatrice was probably one of the 18 of us.
そんなの当然じゃない
Isn't
こ
that
の島に
obvious?
は私たちしかいない
There's no one else on this island besides us, right?
なら私たちの中の誰かが
But there must be someone amongst us who's pretending to be a Beatrice.
この島には俺たち以外は
There's no one else but us on this island, you think?
当然でしょ
Obviously, right?
私たち以外の誰がここにいる
Are you saying there could be someone else here other than us?
この島には私たちしかいない
No one is on this island except us.
18人しかい
There
な
are
い
only 18 people.
ならベアトリーチェ
So
を
the
語
one
るのも
pretending to be
18人の中
Beatrice
に
has to
誰
be
か
one
し
of
かい
those
ないじゃない
18.
I don't think Ava is invoking any sort of logic here.
There must be 18 people.
Like, what authority is she claiming to know that there are for sure 18 people? Kirei-san denied the existence of a 19th person by spinning the chessboard around. Even though Aunt Ava hadn't constructed an argument that complicated, her opinion at least was the same. Except, if that's the case, our situation starts to look very ugly. At the time of Beatrice's letter, the whole thing could be passed off as a prank set up by someone or another. However, if we're assuming that there's no 19th person, we can't ignore this anymore. In other words,
19人目がいないなら
if there is no 19th
親父
person,
たちを殺した犯人も
then the culprit who killed Dad and the others is also one of the 18,
つ
right?
まり
So, in other words, the person who killed them is one of the people inside this very mansion right now. Aunt Ava smiled meaningfully. It looked like she thought this conclusion should have been obvious from the very beginning.
犯人は倉庫の中に6人の遺体を運
Culprit
び込
carried
ん
the
だわ
bodies of those 6 into the storehouse.
でもよく
But
倉庫
even
の
that
中に
was an
運び込
impressive
めたわよ
feat,
ね
don't you think?
あのシャッターは常に閉められていて施錠さ
That
れてい
shutter
た
is
し
always closed and locked, right?
つまり倉庫内
In
に
other
運び
words,
込むに
in
は
order
シャ
to
ッター
carry
の
them
施
into
錠
the
を開ける
storehouse,
必要
the
があっ
culprit
た
would need to unlock the shutter.
わかる
Understand?
たまたまその日シャッターが開けっぱな
Is
しに
it
なってた
possible
可能
the
性
shutter
は
was left open by mistake that day?
使用人たちは常に閉めていると
The
言ってたわ
servant said it's always kept locked.
つまり鍵を
In
使用
other
人
words,
室から
unless
持
the
ち出さなく
culprit
ては
took the keys
倉庫
from
は
the
絶対
servant
に開け
room,
られない
there's no way they could have opened the storehouse.
鍵は使用人室の一つしかない
I wonder if the key in the servant room was the only one.
源氏さんはそうだと言ってるわ
Genji-san said that was the case.
Maybe it's Genji.
ということは
My
犯人はそのた
apologies.
った一つの倉庫の鍵のありかを知っていて
Which
持ち出
means
し
the
た
culprit knew where that single key was kept and took it.
さっきカノン君が使用人室
Just
に
now,
鍵を
I
戻した
watched
と
when
見た
Kanon-kun returned the key to the servant room.
壁にびっしりと鍵がかけら
The
れ
wall
て
was
いて
packed with keys,
とても
and I don't
素
think a
人が
novice would know
どこに
where
何が
or
かけてあ
what
るのか
those
わから
keys
ない
went to.
犯人は
The culprit was miraculously able to find the storehouse key among all of those.
しかも
Furthermore, even though the key didn't have a tag or anything sticking to it, they knew it was the key to the storehouse behind the rose garden.
ついでに言う
And that means they also knew where the storehouse was.
ともっとはっきり断言するわ
I'll say it even clearer.
犯人は
The culprit knew the inside of the servant room well.
Her argument was extremely plain and clear. If the bodies had been found thrown somewhere in the bushes of the rose garden, there wouldn't have been much to go on. However, there was only one key to the storehouse in the servant room, and it was stored with such a large group of keys, a novice would not be able to tell them apart. This meant the culprit was someone who went into the servant room a lot, and was familiar with the location of the keys. The family members didn't normally go into the servant room, which meant that
ってことは
one of the servants is
犯人
the culprit.
悪いけどそれ以上はおばさん
I'm
も
sorry,
言えないわ
but even I can't tell you any more than that.
でも
However, I'll tell you one thing. Wow, I thought you said you couldn't tell us anymore.
What's that?
It's reasonable to think that the culprit No, culprits are multiple in number and fairly well armed.
だってそうでしょ
They'd have to be, wouldn't they?
食堂にいた兄さんたち4人を
They
一
had
度
to
に襲っ
assault
て
the
殺
four
し
in the dining hall
合
and
計
kill
6
them,
人分の遺
drag
体
a
を
total of 6 bodies all the way to the storehouse beyond the rose
倉庫ま
garden,
で運んで悪趣味な
and
化粧
arrange
と
that
落書きを施して
disgusting makeup and the graffiti in the shutter.
これだけのことを単独犯で
There's
行え
no
るは
way
ずも
that
な
a
いでし
single
ょ
culprit could carry out all of that on their own, right?
It made sense. Probably would have been possible for a single person with enough time, but it would take so incredibly long. It was probably safe to assume that a significant number of people were involved. The servants rebelling, man. Phew.
Furniture rise up.
エヴァおばさんは
So what you're saying
使用人の人たちがみん
is
な
that
来る
maybe
だろうって
all
言っ
of
て
the
さ
servants were in cahoots.
静かになさいな
Please keep it quiet, okay?
憶測で言っちゃ悪い
It wouldn't be right to voice mere speculation like this.
それにもし
And if it really is true, what would you do next?
彼らは私たちを生かし
They
て
might not let
返
us
さないで
leave
しょ
here alive.
しかも
This is an opponent who had no trouble killing Nissan and the 3 others.
今この部屋に残っていてまともに
Right
戦え
now,
そうな
the only
人間
ones I
は
can count on to fight with me are the 3 in my family,
せいぜいバ
and maybe you, which comes to a total of 4 people, right?
状況は昨晩と何も
We're
変
no
わらない
better off than they were last night.
つまり犯人にとって
In
も
short,
私
it'd
た
be
ちを
easy for the
見逃しに
culprits
す
to
るのは
massacre the
簡
rest
単
of
な
us.
のよ
Oh shit. I'd been playing detective with Aunt Ava, trying to expose the person who'd killed Dad and the rest before the police did. If only I could cleverly penetrate the culprit's identity and stick the proof in their face. I'd been so sure that, just like in one of those detective movies, the culprit would then give up and surrender. However, the culprit would only surrender if there was no way for them to fight back. The culprits behind this crime, the crime on this island, were far from helpless, and might even be able to massacre all of the remaining people here. And on top of that, this island was like a giant closed room, cut off from the outside world by the typhoon, so they had a full day, until tomorrow, to kill, scheme, and camouflage themselves. In short, it wasn't a safe atmosphere where we could get very far by playing detective. To the contrary, we were at a stage where we had to be scared stiff, since playing detective might displease the culprits and cause them to commit another mass murder.
あくまでも可能性の問題よ
It is just a possibility, right?
でも私は使用人の
But I
人た
can't
ちを
bring myself to
信用でき
trust
ない
servants yet.
それに私は使
And
用
that
人だ
doesn't
けを
mean I
疑って
only
るわけじゃない
suspect them.
さらに黒幕がいるかもしれな
Don't
い
you
と
think
思
there
う
might be some mastermind behind all this? Nanjo!
It's Nanjo's plan. A mastermind?
どうしてですか
Why do you say that?
勘よ
It's just a feeling.
使用人は書いて字の
Think
ごとし
about what the word servant literally means.
誰かに使用されて手
It
足
means
とな
someone
る
who
存在
serves as someone else's arms and legs, right?
殺されたのは後宮家の親
It
族
was a
ば
bunch of Ushiromiya family members who got killed.
ならその結
So
果で被害が
naturally,
発生
there
する
must be
人間
someone
が
involved
関
who
わるの
stands to
は当然
gain from that result.
This was also plain and clear. The Ushiromi family had been right in the middle of discussions about how to distribute the inheritance when grandfather died. If this case followed the standard form of any classic mystery novel, the crime was definitely caused by someone with ties to the Ushiromi family and who was involved in the inheritance problem. Aunt Ava had probably read a few books in that genre herself. Her argument may have had a few blind assumptions in it, but it was a standard conclusion that anyone might have reached. I think most people would end up suspecting the servants, even if they used different reasoning to get there. Especially the story about the key to the shutter. That made it very easy to suspect that one of the servants was involved. And that's why I don't like it.
気に入らないって何の話？
What do you mean you don't like it?
あ、いえいえ、こっちの話っす。
Yeah, I'm just talking to myself. Salmon, you're still up, mate. What? That's a solid effort, mate.
He's enthralled.
I tried to dodge her question by joking, but I couldn't erase the sense of unease welling up inside me. After all, her conclusion was such an easy one to reach. A conclusion that anyone could reach. And I just couldn't be satisfied with that. If I tried spinning the chessboard around like I'd learned from Kyrie-san, this was exactly why a servant couldn't possibly be the culprit. If the servants really were the culprits, they wouldn't hide the bodies in a place connected to themselves. Why on earth would they use the Rose Garden shed if they were the ones in charge of the key that could unlock it? The police would probably immediately pursue whoever had been in control of the key. It was even possible that some other facts might come to light as a result. The more we think of the servants as culprits, the less reason they had to carry the bodies into the storehouse. What if they knew we'd think that, and put the corpses in the storehouse for that very reason? No, that's completely impossible. When the police come and inspect the scene of the crime, they'll probably be able to uncover many things. No matter how carefully the culprits carried out that murder, some traces will definitely be found. In other words, they had everything to lose and nothing to gain. If you think about it this way and look at the murder game from the culprit's side, it's hard to imagine why they want to call attention to the corpses. Once the corpses were found, it could result in someone sending a report to the police, or it might make the remaining people more cautious, or it might make the survivors start to search for the culprit. None of these things would make life any easier for the culprit. It's just like the words of the main character's mother in a novel I read recently called Higurashi no Naku Koroni. Every story needs...
It's a reference. Higurashi.
Oh, right. I did not get that reference. Every story needs to have a beginning, a middle, and an end. Eliminating that beginning is essential for the perfect crime. Right now, we don't know where Grandfather is. We don't know if he's already become a victim, or if he's one of the culprits. But this state of confusion must be beneficial to the killer. You know, Callum, was Ava accusing Battler before? And was that what made Battler uneasy? But
no, what you mean when you said he didn't like it?
Yeah, like, because
He was saying he didn't like it for this reason, that, like, he thinks it's too obvious that the servants are to blame, so he thinks it can't be the servants.
Yeah, but Eva was... Yeah, okay. Because Ava was saying that someone who... she reckons it's someone who would stand to gain from the inheritance dispute. Which must
which
have
is a bit
been...
self-incriminating in a sense.
Well, yeah, it is, actually.
But then again, like, why, if you were the culprit, why the fuck would you be saying all this?
Well, it's all like reverse psychology games. The culprit has absolutely nothing to gain by showing us the bodies in such an obvious way and making us all realize there's been a murder. In fact, this is the perfect place to spin the chessboard around. In other words, showing us the corpses in such a flashy way must be the culprit's goal in and of itself. So at the very least, to the culprit, the appearance of 6 corpses there meant more than the deaths themselves. In other words, the culprit wanted this murder on display. To whom? To us. This is a message. The culprit's trying to shove something in our faces. I don't know what it is. At this point in time, this vulgar mass murder isn't making me feel anything except a malice directed towards all of us. Malice towards all of us. Is it? Each one of the survivors has some kind of connection to one of the 6 victims. Uncle Krause's death brought Jessica the grief of losing a family member. The deaths of Dad and Kyrie-san brought me sorrow, while Aunt Rosa's death brought Maria sorrow. Apparently.
Going to bat.
Goda-san's death probably shocked his fellow servants, and Shannon-chan's death brought grief both to George Anarchy, who had proposed to her, and Kanon-kun, who had loved her like an older sister. I'm just going to grab a glass of water for my throat. Give me
Right, Matt.
1 minute. Are you ready to continue, Callum?
Yep.
Everyone now on this island has received an equal amount of sadness. Aunt Ava was sure that the servants were in cahoots, but then, how could you explain the deaths of Goda-san and Shannon-chan? At any rate, by this argument, the grief caused by the 6 deaths hit everyone but Aunt Ava and Uncle Hideyoshi. Even Aunt Ava, who had directed suspicion at the servants and acted as though she herself was beyond suspicion, couldn't be ruled out as a suspect. In the first place, she was able to argue that the servants were suspicious by focusing on the shutter's key, but if you look at it from a perspective of motive and who would gain, Aunt Ava's name rises to the top of the list. Jesus Christ.
バトラ君が何を考えてるかおばさんわかるわよ。
I know what you're thinking, Battler-kun.
What?
What? Oh, no.
内緒にしててくださいよ。
Please don't tell
あん
anybody
なことやこんなことで
about how my
頭をいっぱい
head's
に
so
してたなんて
full of obscene stuff.
私がこの殺人で一番
I'm the one who's going to gain the most from these murders.
どうせ疑われるだろうから。
Since I'm going to be suspected anyway, I might as well get it out in the open.
I tried to dodge the issue by joking around, but apparently it didn't work.
遺産は兄弟の数で分割す
The
る。
inheritance will be divided into as many parts as there are siblings.
でも今や4兄弟は私一
But
人。
right now, I'm the only one of the 4 left.
後宮家の全財産は
All of the assets of the Ushiromiya family will become mine.
秀吉おじさんが聞いたら
If Uncle Hideyoshi
もう
heard
3
you,
回言えば
he'd say,
にならん
"Could you give it a rest? It's not funny."
ごめんね。
I'm sorry.
どう取り繕ったってどうせ疑わ
I
れ
was
る
just
だろうか
fooling
らふ
around,
ざけた
since
だ
I'm
けよ
going to be suspected anyway, no matter how much I try to smooth it over.
だからこの殺人は私の立場
That's
から
why,
見れば
from my point of
私を
view, this
疑わ
murder
せる
might
た
have
めの
been
ものではない
designed to
かと
cast
思ってる
suspicion
の
on me.
困ったことに夕べのアリバイが弱い
Unfortunately,
わ
my alibi for last night is weak.
Because it's your own husband.
聞かせてもらってもいいですか
Could you tell me a bit more about last night?
バトラ君たちも知っている通り
As you know, the discussion between the siblings of how to slice up and eat the inheritance continued until late into the night.
でも何時まで続いたかは知らない
But I don't know how late it lasted.
私と主人は朝が早かったから
My
ね
husband and I had woken up early that morning.
もう眠くて眠くて
We were so
24時を
sleepy,
過ぎたあたりで
and a
寝さ
little
せてもらっ
past
た
midnight,
の
they let us go.
そしてゲストハウスに戻って休んだわ
We then returned to the guest house and rested there.
それを
Can anyone other than Uncle Hideyoshi prove that?
いやいや
No, wait. It's not like I suspect you or anything, okay?
あらどうだ
Oh, are you sure about that? Just really egging him on.
証明になるかわからないけれど
I don't know if it counts as proof, but when we returned to the guest house, we were greeted by Genji-san, who asked if we needed a towel.
だから私たちがゲストハウスに戻ってき
I
た
think
時間
that should
は
be enough proof we
24
returned to
時
the
過ぎだ
guest
と
house
証
a little
明して
after
くれる
midnight.
と思うわよもっとも
Midnight.
私の仮説通り
So, if
使用
my
人たち
theory
も
was
グルなんだ
correct,
と
the
したら
servants would
そ
all
んな
be
の
in
アリバイになら
cahoots,
ないけど
and that
ね
wouldn't actually make for much of an alibi.
確かにそうっすね
Hey, you've got a point
ってこ
there.
とは
Guess that means I'm playing detective with the real culprit right now, huh?
でも私の名誉のために言わせてもら
However,
うけど
let me say this for my
遺産目
honor's
当てだっ
sake.
たなら
If
こん
I
な
was
ような
after
殺
the
人はしない
inheritance,
わよ
I never commit such a bizarre set of murders.
だって遺産相続権
After
を
all,
喪失させる
if
だ
I
けな
just
ら
wanted to
ど
make
ん
them
な死
forfeit
に
their
方だっ
rights
て
to the
構わない
inheritance, it wouldn't matter to me how they died.
むしろ事故死に見せかけた方がス
It'd be
マー
much
トでし
smarter
ょ
of me to try and make their deaths look like accidents.
使用人たちを抱き込んで周到に計画し
Especially
て
if
い
you're
たなら
assuming I laid
な
out
お
some
さらそう
careful
するでしょ
plan
う
that
よ
involved even the servants.
確かにそうっすね
You've got a point
鋭利
there.
で人を殺すなら
If you're killing someone for personal gain, you definitely shouldn't make it look like a murder.
そういうことよ
Exactly.
But you can always flip the logic around. Because
You keep spinning the chessboard.
exactly, like, you know, like, you can just say that it's just more levels of reverse psychology that, oh, because they thought of that, so therefore they're doing that because they know it would be obvious that it's them, and then, so it's, I guess, just comes down to how deeply you think that they've planned it out.
だからおばさんは今からとてもブルーな
That's
気持
why
ち
I'm
な
in
わ
such
け
a blue mood.
警察には黒幕扱いされ
The
て
police will
散々
probably
調
treat
べ
me
ら
like
れ
the
るでしょうね
mastermind and investigate all kinds of things.
やだやだ
Not fun at all.
So did you damage the radio, Ava?
Give it a rest.
Aunt Ava shrugged with a bitter smile. It was just as easy to suspect Aunt Ava as it was to suspect the servants. So, if we spin the chessboard around, does that make it impossible for the culprit to be her, suspicious as she is? However, if that sort of argument always works, then motive can never help us in any way. No, that can't be right. Knowing the motive must give us powerful clues towards knowing the culprit. That's why murderers from all time periods disguise crimes in complicated ways, cleverly preventing their motives from being discovered. I don't get it. I just don't get it. Every time I spin the chessboard around, it keeps flipping from front to back and back to front. Are my thoughts bringing me closer to the truth? Or are they... I wonder if we should give it a rest at this point.
Rest, Eva. Are you tired?
Yeah, I'm pretty tired, man.
Yeah, probably a decent pause in the current scene.
Yeah, sometimes you've just gotta say that's that, because I'm sure we could, if we go much further, we might get caught in another passage.
Another endless scene.
Well,
Well, yeah, lots to think about in this one. Not much happened, but a lot of theory crafting.
and you can only have to assume that all the other adults are probably all going through these thoughts subconsciously or consciously, but just not out loud to themselves. Nanjo's probably like, what the fuck is going on? Unless it's Nanjo.
Nanjo have to gain from this.
Bit of excitement.
Just wants a bit of a laugh.
Maybe it's all to win his chess game somehow. In some far-fetched way.
That would be quite funny, if true.
And yeah, Maria's been once again puzzling, to say the least.
I'm very glad she hasn't had a tantrum, from my perspective.
Yeah, I thought we were just going to be listening to all fucking night, but apparently not.
We heard the Kumasawa. Awa, 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 awa.
Oh yes. Oh. Should I just continue to overwrite these?
Yeah, probably just start looping through. Legend of the Golden Witch. Ooh, Beatrice.
The witch's letter. I might have to reread this soon. Can't really be bothered to read it right now, but might be useful to go back to that as a source.
Yes.
So, first Twilight offer 6 chosen, alright. On the second Twilight, those who remain shall tear apart the two who are close. Now, I'm assuming that Twilight is referring to a day. So, like, according to the Epitaph, we've just had the first Twilight. And then tomorrow, or tonight in the story, will be the second. Maybe. Those who remain shall tear apart the two who are close. Close to what? Close to each other? Close to the secret? Close in proximity to something?
Physically just close to something. Yes, it's all a bit ambiguous at this stage, isn't it?
To me, that kind of means that people are going to get together and, like, start accusing, and then there's going to be a consensus that two people are the culprits.
Hmm.
On the third twilight, those who remain shall praise my noble name. So maybe by that point, people are gonna be like, fucking love Beatrice.
Big fan. Fan of your work.
So maybe she's gonna be confirmed real at that point.
Very
Interesting.
interesting thoughts.
Yeah. And then the next night, there's just more killing. Feel bad for the person who's... Well, I feel bad for all the people who are getting gouged, let's be honest.
Yeah, I mean, gouge the knee and kill seems particularly brutal. Because like gouging the knee like definitely wouldn't kill you. So like
Yeah.
you'd be in quite a bit of pain up until death.
The witch shall revive on the ninth twilight, and none shall be left alive. So everyone's gonna die. And then the next day, obtain the power of the Golden Land's treasures once and for the last time. I guess, is that maybe Kinzo getting that? I don't know. Which shall praise the wise? One shall be the resurrection of all the dead souls. Love that was lost. Alright, I don't know anymore. I can't think anymore.
Yeah, there's still a lot to learn, I shall say.
Yeah, true. Well, thanks for watching, guys. And I'll see ya. We'll see ya in the next episode. Later.